Welcome to episode 56 of The Luxury Travel Marketer. I'm your podcast host David, co-owner and co-founder of Jadewolf Marketing. Today's episode is going to be all about how you can market a luxury travel business at different stages of its life cycle. Before we deep dive into the topic, if you want to support this podcast, if you want us to produce more episodes or cover a variety of different topics that are interesting to you, or invite more interesting guests from the industry, go to patreon.com/jadewolf. Become one of our Patreons. There's 3 different tiers of support that you can opt into, and it's a great way of helping us keep this podcast going, keeping our agency going. If you don't have the means or the situation where you can hire us as an agency, that's another great way of supporting us. So please check it out. If you're a business owner, if you're a marketer who needs help with lead generation or direct bookings or consulting, whatever it might be, in the marketing sales space for your luxury travel company, go to jadewolfmarketing.com, navigate to the resource section at the top. We have our podcasts, we have our blog posts all listed there. We have free guides that you can download where you can, get to know us as an agency, our method, how we work with clients, and, you can make yourself a better picture if we're the right agency for you. If you feel that we're the right agency for you, fill out one of our callback request forms and we will give you a call within the next 24 or 48 hours, right? And figure out together if we're the right partner for your project. So another special thing I want to announce in this podcast now is that we have deepened our partnership with Super Yacht Radio. Maeve and Dave Dempsey are great people and we want to help them. They want to help us. So from now on, you're also able to, if we post a yachting blog post or podcast, to click on a link and tune into Super Yacht Radio. We're going to do some other collabs and promotions with them. And, you can also now listen to episodes of The Luxury Travel Marketer if you tune in to Super Yacht Radio on superyachtradio.com. And Maeve and Dave are going to play some of our episodes throughout the week. And, it's a great way for us as a podcast, to spread the word about direct marketing for luxury travel. And, we want to also help them, spread the word about all the great topics they cover, specifically in the yachting industry, right? So make sure to check them out. The links to their website are going to be at the bottom of this post if you check it out on our website. That being said, let's dive into the topic. So what are the different life cycle stages of a luxury travel business? Well, it's important to understand that the maturity and size of your business and the financials will dictate how you should do sales and marketing for it in a different way, depending on where you are in its development, right? And it's completely normal that certain business models, and certain people and certain brands will never grow beyond one of these stages because maybe the market just does not support it, or they don't want to, or they have a hard time, scaling or growing. There's a reason that only there's, as a certain amount of enterprise companies in the world, large international brands in luxury travel, and a lot of SMBs and especially small businesses who never go beyond a certain stage. And I want to show you a little bit why that's the case, so you start understanding where the scaling and where the growth actually comes from, and what the different mindsets are and the different investments that you need to make to go from one stage to the other. So let me break down, our perception of the industry, of the 4 verticals that we serve at Jadewolf a little bit further, so I can kind of start ranking them from small to large or enterprise even. So when we're talking about travel, obviously on the smaller end, you will have the DMCs and the tour operators. DMCs, destination marketing companies, or DMO, destination marketing organization, doesn't matter really what it's called, are usually, companies that help local sites, local small hotels, restaurant, bars, whatever it might be, in a specific location, be it the Maldives, be it Mauritius, be it another place, or even a larger region like a city or like a country. They will help these small businesses to band together, provide marketing services for them, provide maybe lead generation services for them by doing B2B outreach and trying to get the word across on trade shows and things like that. But due to the nature that they're always local and they're always regionally limited, they will never really grow above the SMB size, to be honest. Tour operators being the same thing. A tour operator, the name says it already, it's usually about a local spot. It might be Krabi in Thailand, might be someplace in India, it might be some other, like a city guide tour, and it can be obviously a luxury version of that, and there can be like a mid-market, and there can be a discount version of that. But again, tour operators tend to, be very reliant on DMCs, on travel agents, travel agencies to kind of like get business. If they advertise for themselves, they often try to do it through things like Yelp and certain indexes and market directories, and word of mouth and referrals, obviously in luxury as well. So these businesses by default are destined to stay small and usually have not a lot of employees. Most of the time, not necessarily a dedicated marketing person. Maybe the salesperson is doing some marketing as well, or just the owner or founder is doing some of it. When you're dealing with these type of companies, if you want to grow, if you want to scale, you either usually have to expand your regional or geographical focus, right, to include more regions. You have to make larger deals, larger partnerships with larger organizations in your city, and your local market might not allow that. And as a tour operator, usually you will have to scale by just having more tour guides and or trying to improve the type of clientele that you're getting. So those are the first vectors of growth that you can think about, right? If you one of these smaller travel-related business models. Then the next thing, which is also still on the small side, obviously the solo agents, the solo travel agents, the independent travel agents, the very small travel companies that often start out by selling to their friends and family, selling very locally. Maybe they have a network of affluent people through a family connection, through some previous job in luxury sales, be it like luxury jewelry, watches, cars, or something, real estate, something that they did before. And that will give them access to these individuals, to these families. And then if they like to travel themselves, they go through some education, they do some courses, they maybe become part of some organization like Virtuoso that helps support these kind of like independent solo travel agents. And then they will try like to run by that model. But obviously that model is very limited by itself, because even if you work with affiliate organizations like Virtuoso or other ones, they will only do so much for you as a solo travel agent. They will not develop your personal brand. They will not develop your company brand. And you might quickly start seeing heavy limitations in terms of like the reach that you have, right? The type of customers that you can have. Maybe at some point your local network is exhausted. Maybe you need to expand on the national level, right? Maybe you want to expand internationally. Maybe you want to have assistants, people that can help you with dealing with the actual logistics of being a travel agent and putting packages together and having B2B deals with tour operators, DMCs, hospitality companies, hotels, airlines, etc., right? And in luxury, obviously, you have to work with a high caliber of these providers and vendors. So there's a lot of overhead, a lot of work involved. And if you're a solo operator, in our experience, solo operators tend to sometimes not really have the funds, to proactively invest into their marketing. They will try to do any kind of cheap sales tactic they can think of, from selling on social media, but just posting stuff or DMing people. Some of it can be very amateurish, and that's often where then the limitation comes from. On the flip side of it, or the challenge with being a solo agent, is that you do have to develop your personal brand, your company brand, and you usually have to kind of start at some point, taking a certain percentage of your profits, and instead of reinvesting them into your lifestyle, have to start investing it into marketing. And when I say marketing, I don't mean hiring somebody on Fiverr or Upwork, right, who designs a logo for your website, or using something like Wix, where you can, or Squarespace, where you can click yourself a website together with 2 clicks, but actually really thinking about advertising, media, social media influencers, content creation, analytics, using data, tapping into unknown markets, connecting with affluent individuals on an emotional level, thinking about your copywriting, thinking about email follow-ups, thinking about your booking and sales process, if you can use technology to improve that. So those are some of the avenues that solo agents should think about, Like if I want to hit low six figures, mid six figures, high six figures, or even seven figures as a solo travel agent in my business, you need to take the right steps, and it's not going to come in most cases from just being, a person that is involved as a socialite in certain affluent circles. I mean, maybe if you're in Monaco, if you're in Luxembourg, if you're in London in the finance scene and you have just, the network that you have built over 10, 20, 30 years, maybe that can get you to seven figures. But I would highly doubt that you will be able to ever go beyond that. And most of the overhead of the work of fulfilling the service that you provide to your clients and investing and growing your own business will be all on you, which will make it a very difficult thing to do, right? So with solo travel agents, the manpower, the time limitations, and the budget limitations are stuff that barriers that need to be overcome first. And working with an agency like us, good consultants, good coaches, that can be a great way to do it. But solo agents, especially who have built their stuff with sales activities or local networks, need to often make that leap of faith and bridge that gap and start thinking differently about their own business, right, in terms of growth and scale and maybe a multi-year plan to go somewhere, instead of just thinking, okay, where I'm going to get my next 20, 30K to buy me a new car or pay, get a bigger mortgage on a nicer house and things like that. So people need to kind of think a little bit into the future. That's what I'm saying. So the next stage for travel is obviously agencies. Agencies, I feel, often are not much further than solo agents. Maybe they have 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Maybe they have a national focus. Maybe they have a focus on a certain country. Maybe they're strong in a certain region with their relationships and they've been more years in business. They managed to maybe grow that initial gap, but they still often employ strong just sales and face-to-face selling techniques, because they argue that, okay, in luxury, you need to have that personal relationship, which is very true. You need to build that trust, but they often, fail when it comes to attracting enough net new business, right? New people, new prospects, affluent individuals, and maybe even going international. I think the amount of really sophisticated, established international luxury travel agencies is less than 10 or so in the world. So you can count them on two hands. And bringing up a brand to that level takes time, energy, work, money, and a lot of other things, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But that's, I would say, the largest kind of denominator, or the largest type of business model and entity that you can find in travel, except for cruise companies, right? Carnival Cruises and all those companies. Cruise companies are different because you cannot basically build it up from a small operation to a large one. You have to already have a ship. You have to have a certain amount of bookings. You have to have investors. So it starts at a completely different level. And when they scale, they usually get an armada of ships. So there's a reason there's only a couple successful, or also not that many super successful luxury cruise companies in the world, because the costs and investment, for something like Silversea Cruises, Carnival Cruises, etc., to build a fleet, maintain it, the staffing, the crew, and then sell either permanent cabins there, or seasonal things, and have a constant stream of bookings. If you want to build a successful cruise company, you need help. You need strong investors, a strong plan, people who understand kind of the naval ship faring, and the whole technical aspect of it, the engineering of it. You need strong hospitality people and expertise. It's not a project that a single individual who just has an idea, I'm going to start a cruise company. That's not really how it's going to work. But they also need to go through stages of development, only that they're starting at a much larger, more sophisticated level. At least they should, if they want to be successful. If you just have $100,000, you're not going to start a cruise company, right? You might have that idea, I'm going to just sell enough seats or cabins or bookings, and then I'm going to go to the shipbuilder and get a ship built. You might want to rethink how realistic that is, and you might want to have a more sophisticated plan and talk to somebody like us if you really want to undertake such a venture, because we know of cases where people are basically struggling and failing at that because they had way too lofty goals So be a little bit realistic when it comes to that too. So in yachting, now that we're done with travel, there's obviously the charter brokers, which get established by sometimes being very regional as well. Some Mediterranean place in Greece, in Italy, in Spain, maybe Fort Lauderdale, Miami, right? They or something in Asia. They have connections to boat owners, yacht owners. They know a couple of super yacht people, maybe from the local yacht or country club, maybe from social events, maybe from a previous career in luxury sales, whatever it might be. They start, brokering these relationships. These people cannot use their vessels all year long, their boats, so they start to charter them. They, eventually get crew that they can trust, service staff, etc., engineers, maintenance, and they build a business around that model, right? For charter brokers, I think the challenge can be, if they want to be international, if they want to have be present in multiple marinas, multiple pickup spots, nice locations that are maybe, across the ocean or worldwide, charter tours. They need to have the right boats for that. So there's a component of, expanding your network and finding the right partners, but also another component can be obviously scaling your lead generation, because word of mouth referrals, buying lists online of wealthy people and then smiling and dialing, that might work in North America to a certain degree in certain parts, but the diminishing returns are clearly visible, right? This tactic is dying. Cold email, cold calling as a tool in business to business and in business to consumer is definitely dying. Technology, the internet, privacy, data regulations are killing it. And also consumers, affluent consumers as well, just they don't want to be sold anymore on the phone. People want to discover things by themselves. They want to discover things in magazines, in blogs, in vlogs, on social media. They want to basically, get stuff into their email inbox, which is super personalized, relevant. And that's something that the yachting industry still struggles with their events, with their brokers, in their lead generation, to get away from this old outdated model and move towards something that is personalized, data-driven, creative, uses a lot of psychology, and creates trust from the first moment, right, when people see your brand. Sales brokers, right, individuals, organizations who buy yachts, used yachts, or sell them, or make sure that new build boats find a proper buyer. And in that category, I would also count marketplaces who aggregate that a little bit and have multiple boats for sale. They face the same challenge. They obviously live and die by their relationships, by their network. But building that network obviously can take time, energy, going to all the yacht shows, going to all the boat shows, reading all the magazines, being in tune, being listed, again, being a socialite, being at the right events. It's a lot of work. And if you're a solo sales broker, you might make a deal here and there and then live of it for the rest of the year. But, sometimes if you have a weak lead generation strategy, or your strategy is just like in real estate, you buy a list, you smile and dial, instead of doing proper digital marketing, you will run into situations where, okay, I really need to make a sale, and this person is looking for a specific type of boat and has a specific personality type, but I'm gonna recommend him this kind of boat just so I can make that commission. And then later, the buyer will be not happy, and the sales broker will be known as unethical. And there's very few sales brokers in industry which have a very good reputation. And the reason for that is that they have to cut corners because their lead generation is weak, their sales strategy is weak. They over rely on buying lists, on just advertising for a little bit of money in marketplaces, instead of thinking about their projects, right? When they have a boat that they selling for somebody, or they're supposed to buy a boat for somebody, that they're thinking about, I should take a part of the money here, of the budget, and invest it into advertising, into working with partners like us, working with pros in digital marketing, and kind of exploring all the options to just get more qualified buyers or qualified sellers and have a wider range. It will help them with their network. It will help them with a lot of different things. And often, this traditional mindset of I cannot reach millionaires, billionaires online. They will not react to all that spammy marketing because I personally don't like it. That is completely foolish and blind. So sales brokers also struggle usually with moving beyond that whole kind of deal by deal, feast and famine type of business model and relationship to their own lead generation. The next thing in the supply chain or in the ecosystem of super yachting, so yacht designers, naval architects, the project managers who take on custom building projects for boats. These people obviously operate usually more on a B2B level, but even they need to find the wealthy individuals who are gonna contract them, and they need to be visible in industry publications, at awards, design awards, etc. So they could also need some help usually in terms of digital marketing. A lot of it has been happening in the yachting industry through the boat shows. This year, COVID-19 has changed everything. The shows are gone. Virtual events have replaced them. Virtual showings, virtual reality stuff, and it's going to be more digital. It's going to get more private, more personalized, and getting qualified leads and getting qualified projects into your pipeline is going to be more difficult and more important than ever than just talking to a lot of people. So these kind of companies need to get better with their digital marketing and with their data as well. Then on the next stage, we have the shipbuilders. Obviously, once a wealthy individual has found the right naval architect, the right yacht designer, and they know roughly what kind of boat they want, they will obviously choose, a wharf, a shipbuilder yard, and that has a reputation for fulfilling these type of projects, depending on how long the boat is. Is this a super yacht, mega yacht, etc.? And then there will be negotiation. So these shipbuilders, they are usually doing some form of marketing, but it's traditionally, again, very heavy on the boat shows, very heavy on their sales team, very heavy on, relationship building and brand marketing. And these kind of people could be more data-driven, could be more analytical, could be trying to, be more sharper with what they do in the market, driving more qualified opportunities, qualified engagements with potential buyers, be a little bit better with their qualification, and in general, just offer better content marketing, represent their brand better, be more visible in the right circles, because online allows you to do that when the boat shows are not there, right? And at the last stage, you have in yachting the big brands, people like Ferretti Yachts, Borges. They have charters segments, business units. They have sales brokers. They obviously work closely with designers, naval architects. They have shipbuilders, wharfs, connections to marinas, etc. These people that supply across the whole ecosphere of super yachting or yachting in general and boating, they usually have decent sales operations, decent marketing operations. They are usually involved in some form of brand marketing, event marketing, sponsorships, relationship building. They send their salespeople to all the boat shows. But again, the same thing that I said about shipbuilders and some of the other business models applies for big brands. They could also get more digital, be more data-driven, not pump as much money into brand, but pump a little bit of money into kind of direct channels, try some things like landing pages, website personalization, chatbots, working with influencers, driving actually direct response on social media instead of just, building brand and following and just having pretty pictures there. And, a lot of these companies need to move beyond the strategy of we have a pretty website, we have pretty pictures, we have our sales team, we have our boat shows, and, we have a relationship building in an existing network, right? You can be better than that, and you can be more proactive about your lead generation and your pipeline and your projects. And, that kind of shift of mindset is now being forced upon them by COVID-19 and the crisis. And, people like us, Jadewolf Marketing, other companies out there, consultants can help with that. But there needs to be an openness, to trying new things and reinvesting some of that money, right, that traditionally was put into the wining, dining, the boat shows, the luxurious events, etc., for a large amount of people, etc. In hospitality, it starts usually with the independent hotel that can often positions itself as a boutique hotel, as a boutique luxury hotel, the independent resort, right? That, the wellness spa, that is something, these people usually have a marketing budget, but they traditionally invested only into kind of the standard stuff, OTAs, a little bit of search, a little bit of social, a decent looking website, a decent amount of photography. And they can, the quality can vary very much, even with 5-star properties or boutique properties who are 4 stars, but, want to say that they're unique because of design or some other feature that they have, a unique selling proposition, a differentiator. They could, look into again direct marketing, being better about acquisition channels, paid channels, media buying, maybe expanding their geographical reach. Maybe their guests are usually coming from one location, but maybe another type of guest would be more lucrative. Diving into the personas, right? There's a lot of things you can do there. Then you have hospitality management companies. These usually have different franchises, different hotels or resorts in their portfolio. They often work with agencies. They have their own in-house marketing teams or sales teams. They provide staffing. They provide like logistics, booking, support with the MySpace things. And these kind of people again are suffering also from some traditionalism. They want to do things for cheap because they want to have a high margin that they're receiving from the hotel for their services. They want to obviously, maybe there's a performance deal in place, and they obviously want to keep the hospitality companies in the portfolio. They want to reduce their internal costs, but maximize profits for their members or for their clients. So they often tend to go with cheap choices, cheap options when it comes to partnerships, promotions, advertising. They will often spend, on things that might not be very effective in the modern world. In our experience, they might be too analog, too print focused, too event focused, too word of mouth focused versus using data-driven marketing, paid channels, using funnels, analytics, working with influencers that have an actually engaged audience, not just people who bought fake followers. It's that's where these companies could do better and could be more sophisticated. Then you have the vacation rentals. That can be anything from a real estate person in Spain who just met a lots of people through their real estate business that have summer houses, summer villas there, and just want to monetize them when they're not staying there throughout the year because they're living actually in London or in Hong Kong or somewhere else. So they develop a vacation rental business. They set up a simple website with a simple booking form, and then they try to do some basic do-it-yourself type Google ads or Facebook ads. Often they fail at it, or they have just a small staff. Maybe they're seasonal, so they working really hard and are really overloaded in a couple months of the year. But then once the season fades out a little bit, or at the beginning of the season, they kind of bored because nothing is happening. But the revenue is enough so they can afford a nice lifestyle. And a lot of vacation rental companies at the end of the day are like that. They don't have any intention of going nationwide, adding more regions, adding more property owners to their portfolio, improving maybe occupancy rate even in the off season, improving the profitability per booking for the property rates and things like that, and really look into the math. And the property owners are a little bit at fault as well because they choose vacation rentals that they just know locally from just living there. They don't really look into okay, what are these people doing to promote my property? Do they have sales and marketing, how that is up to date? Are they in tune with what is happening in the world? What kind of guests and customers do they bring me? How much do they bring me? Because these people are busy, they just have multiple houses, summer houses, so they just want some extra money, for that. So that is often a situation that you will have. And, vacation rentals need to be more sophisticated. Like I said before, get smart with digital, get smart with social, really have better product photography, better descriptions, better copywriting, focus a little bit more on each property. Then if they have a large amount of properties, have a better platform, have a better back end, have a more robust technology, work in a smart way with influencers, work with a smart way with email automation, not rely on OTAs, because just if your vacation rental company is everything they're doing for you is putting your property up in an OTA like booking.com or hotels.com, you should fire them right now. Fire them right now and hire somebody who can actually do advertising for you and set up a basic one-pager with a booking form, because you're going to make more money, you're going to have more occupancy, and you probably have more control over what kind of guests and people you're getting for your properties, right? That's my personal advice. Then you have in the next part of the ecosystem and hospitality, you have the hospitality group, obviously the Marriotts, the Accors, the the Mandarin Orientals, the Shangri-La hotels, the luxury specialized groups, the groups that have luxury premium and maybe mainstream and discount under their portfolio, the Hiltons, the Hyatts, the Wyndhams. These companies are obviously gigantic. They have owned properties, franchised licensed properties. They have resorts. They have wellness. They have city hotels, countryside, whatever you want. They're nationwide. They're either regionally strong in APAC, EMEA, or North America, or like a combination of all of it. And these people, in our opinion, in our experience, what they suffer from usually is being organizationally encumbered, I would call it, or having a slow decision-making hierarchy. And in general, change and innovation is hard, and they're moving very slow at the end of the day. So marketing, for example, at the Marriott Group is handled that only the head offices, the head office basically dictates the global brand strategy, the global marketing strategy, paid channels, earned channels, owned channels, content marketing, whatever it is, the back-end system, the booking system, the analytics, it's all centralized. And on the property level, you don't even have access sometimes into analytics, right? And that, I think that is a known fact, and a lot of big companies are like that. They're obviously doing that to kind of like streamline things, to have more central control, to be better with business intelligence and controlling. But the downside of that is that often, things are done in a way that are ineffective, that are not working, that are not producing great amount of direct bookings, a lot of amount of returns. They're spending bazillions on OTAs, which they could spend on like improving their own paid marketing. And a lot of these companies rely so extremely heavily on brand, and they believe that brand marketing is everything. They're spending insane amounts of money on brand, and if they would just take a little bit of that, put it into direct, explore a little bit the world of direct response and like landing pages, funnels, analytics, media buying, not in the context of just reach, CPM, frequency, and brand recall, but in the sense of like click-through rates, costs per click, engagement, conversions, opt-ins, retention, customer lifetime value, wealth profile, personas. These companies could do much better, or could be much stronger in certain aspects of their business, or with different business units or sub-brands that they have, right? But these limitations, and because we so many times, it has happened to us in our 2-year time now in Jadewolf, where we like had contacts and conversations with local directors of sales and marketing, or even like area managers, and they said like, I would love to work with you guys. It sounds really interesting. It sounds really great. I've read your content. I've listened to your podcast, but it's all managed through the head office. We have very little options here. Sometimes, for local things like PR or copywriting or translations, we can use local players. But you guys seem to just have a thing that would be best if you sell it to the head office. And then obviously all the agencies in the world are selling to the head office, and they feel like, we're being spammed, so we want to do everything in-house. There's this whole problem as well that some of these companies believe that in-housing is the solution to everything. And then you look at their websites, look at their branding, at their presentation, and it shows. And the technology, how unsophisticated they partially are, or how outdated some of the things are that they use. And because, I had a discussion with a brand buyer, a media buyer of a global company, not in travel, but he told me essentially, David, the reason people use OTAs is that, the booking process, the checkout process, if you go book straight on the website of the hotel, and that includes luxury, this is a guy that stays at a lot of luxury properties around the world due to work. He has corporate deals. He says their process sucks. Their process sucks. So even if I'm like, I know I want to stay at this brand every time when I'm in that city, I will still go through the OTA because I don't like their website experience. It's not convenience. It's not logical. It's confusing. So these companies have bad CRO, and they lose a lot of money, because if they get that direct booking through the OTA, they will lose that margin. So these kind of people have structural issues with being too much with brand, not enough in direct, and they kind of like need to get a little bit away from meta search OTAs and put a little bit more into data and analytics, and maybe be a little bit more decentralized actually, to account for local differences. Digital marketing in China is different than digital marketing in Russia or Japan. So there needs to be a mind shift in terms of embracing technology and the digital innovation in general. So those are basically the industry verticals and the business models broken down in terms of size and where the weaknesses usually are in our experience so far. Now a little bit about best practice, right? When you are running currently, or you're being a marketer in one of these business models at one of these stages, right, of development. So in our opinion, just to give you some rule of thumb, right, a startup, that includes every kind of like small model, a solo entrepreneur, a small team of less of 5, less of 10, you should be doing 90% direct, 10% brand marketing, right? And the 10% brand marketing you can do is basically a website and some form of ongoing content production that you have. But the 90% should be invested into kind of like building a solid email database, having a solid funnel, having the right paid advertising, and measuring everything you can, and testing and optimizing as much as you can, right? That's where like the growth is going to come from. Next stage, you're in an SMB, right? A small, medium-sized business, which I feel in a lot of cases encompasses, subjectively felt, 60-70% of the luxury travel industry, right? You might be in the multi-million range, you might be like even in the 100 million range, but you're not a $1 billion brand, right? Or even a publicly listed company, which in my opinion, like maybe some of the big aviation or yachting companies are. Actually, just a quick recourse. I forgot the aviation companies. That brings me back. Sorry about that. Today is very unfocused. So in aviation, it's very similar to yachting in terms of business models. You have the charter brokers, right? Similar problems like in yachting, buying lists, sales focused, networking focused, trade show focused. They're doing outreach on LinkedIn, writing to people, hey, do you have needs, blah, 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 we can be a great provider. They're still selling at this level. So it works for them to a certain degree, because the people that they sell to are also like sometimes very old fashioned, but it's definitely diminishing. And when they think about lead generation, they often think about, like, hey, do you sell a list? Can you sell us some contacts? We get requests like that all the time. Then you have the sales brokers, the marketplaces, they buy jets, they flip them. We had Renee Bengelsdorf on the podcast, who runs a successful company like that, a business model like that. And, she does a lot of digital marketing. She has her own podcast. She, is involved in another one that's aviation and pilot focused. So she's a good example of, how a sales broker should do things. But a lot of sales brokers are not very digital, not very data driven, not do a good job. And, obviously there's a lot of room for improvement. With the jet manufacturers, the Embraers, the Gulfstreams, the Dassaults, there it's often, either it's a unit of a larger aviation company like General Dynamics or something, and, they treat it kind of like, okay, the same way like other business units. And there's a lack of, again, an overbearing of brand, an overbearing of sales, relying on like your sales force and buying lists and databases and acquiring data, instead of like, driving inbound, warm, opt-ins, the right profiles, affluent personas, and, just really capitalizing on that and on what the next generation of private aviation and business aviation customers is going to look like. So that was a quick excursus into aviation. They suffer from a lot of the similar problems like the yachting industry does. Because it's both in a way transportation, it's both in a way like a very high-end form of transportation that often is combined with leisure. So it is quite similar. Back to like the business model. So we were talking about SMBs. You're an SMB. I feel you should be spending 70% on direct, but 30% on brand. Your brand should be, investment should be, maybe you have a vlog, videos, a podcast. Maybe you have more ads in magazines that are not focused on selling or getting a conversion or a redirect, but just on like, showing that you are a great brand, showing off your brand values, having editorials, having nice productions, that are visually stunning, showcasing your team a little bit more and investing into that kind of stuff, employer branding. The 70% should be still in direct, and that should be obviously your paid channels, search, social, media buying, programmatic, mobile marketing, analytics, funnels, landing pages, copywriting, email automation, testing, A/B testing, tweaking, multivariant testing, personas, sharpening these personas, CRO, psychology, emotional resonance. Those kind of things are very important to get the growth if you're an SMB. An enterprise probably should be around 50-50. I feel in reality it's probably like more like 80-20. for a lot of these big hospitality companies or some of the very large aviation or yachting companies. 50-50. Why? Because I feel that is the most effective mix. Half of it is brand, half of it is direct. The brand stuff, obviously, you're just working with, large media buying organizations that can help you just syndicate your brand message, your brand values, your offers throughout the whole world. And then you measure, where you get the return in sense of like maybe brand recall, focus groups, message mining, customer surveys. Your sales force can give you some feedback, analyzing internal CRM data on how your brand is affecting, brand marketing is affecting your ROI, your bottom line. And the 50% direct should be investment in website personalization, chat flows, chatbots. Again, paid media buying, but this time focused on conversions and direct bookings. Having a sharper media buying process that is more concentrated and focused, having landing pages and funnel frameworks, right? Multi-channel funnel frameworks, mapping each touch point in terms of analytics, measuring attribution, using attribution modeling to follow these affluent, your top guests throughout their whole journey, your top customers, right? And using specialists for that like us, investing into CRO, really doing emotional neuromarketing audits of your marketing, right? Things like that on a high level. Obviously being on the cutting edge. What are the changes in the social media networks, the technology, the advertising platforms? What's the newest, segment that we can get that we haven't tapped into? Global expansion, new regions, new markets. How do we do it in China? How do we do it in Russia? How can we do line advertising in Southeast Asia and Thailand, right, and Taiwan? How we can use cacao in Japan? All these different cool things that only cutting edge people would think about that want to dominate the market. That is, what an enterprise should do with their direct marketing spend. Now, there's, apart from like the split between direct and brand, there's obviously, a certain themes, right? From small to large when you scale. Content is becoming more and more important. The larger you become, you need to have better content, rich media, better ads, HTML5 animated, creatively designed with great themes for the campaign, instead of like a simple GIF or like a simple single image ad with just a logo and a ship picture of a plane or something like that. You need to have blogs, PR, employer branding, videos, podcasts, influencers, sponsored content, you name it. You need to have great content. You need to have copywriting that is better and better and better at each state of your business. You need to revision, reiterate, improve every year, your website every year. That is always look at it, always see what you can tweak and improve. Technology, that's back end and front end, right? What kind of marketing and sales technology are you using? What is your sales force using? Are they using sales engagement tools? Is your CRM on the newest level? Are you using the data? Is your analytics, your web analytics, email analytics, business intelligence, is that feeding into it? Are you familiar with all the advertising options that you have, or do you have a simple-minded approach of there's just Google and Facebook and print? What are the options? Even if you can even take cinema ads, or out of home into account, or print if you want to. But where is the technology going? What is happening with AI, machine learning, VR, AR? How can we, create a more personalized, more intimate, more direct experience for our wealthy customers? How can we make their life easier, right? As well, not only when we're fulfilling the service for them or providing the product, but also throughout their sales and marketing process. Partnerships, right? How connected are we to people who know what they're talking about? Our agency partnerships, our media partnerships, our technology partnerships, our supplier partnerships, are these up to date? Are we working with the best people? Are we looking for new people? Do we have the greatest ways to attract talent? Can we retain that talent? Can we train people? E-learning platforms, education, seminars. Are we investing in the right stuff? Those are questions you need to ask yourself constantly if you're moving from startup to SMB to enterprise. Then obviously the importance of innovation, right? Every year you should be looking at your goals, what you're doing in sales, marketing, your technology, your content, your partnerships, your people, your talent, obviously your finance, right? You need to obviously acquire financing and maybe refinancing for a life stage. Even if you're growing, even if you're making revenue, there's very few companies who can make that journey from like startup SMB to enterprise company in the travel segment, who will not at some point will get involved with investors, be it private equity or private investors, might have to go public, might have to use banks, investment banks, you might have to get a loan if you're just, a simple solo travel agent. Growth has to do with investment has to do with risk has to do with reward, right? So people need to be aware of that correlation. If you're afraid to go bankrupt with your business, if you're afraid to make bold choices, if you're afraid to invest into the future, then you're gonna go bankrupt, then you're gonna go fail, then your business is gonna fail, or your competitor is gonna like crowd you out of the market because they're not afraid and they're willing to like put everything on the line. And at the end of the day, as a real entrepreneur, you need to have that attitude and be willing to fail as well, right? As painful as that might be. So those are some best practice advice, tips and like tips for you guys listening who are in that stage of development, wherever you might be. I hope this episode was very long. It's a 45-minute one. I ranted a lot, but I hope, I have been able to share you a little bit from the sales marketing perspective, what kind of like development your business will go through, how it will change, how your approach has to change over the years. We with Jadewolf are obviously still in the startup stage. We're trying to get financing. I talked about that on other ends, and we're actually having good leads on that for the new year. Things gonna like be developing very quickly very soon, and that's thanks to you guys, our listeners, our clients, the people who who come to our website, support us on Patreon, engage with us, engage with our partners like Super Yacht Radio. It's all up to you that we can grow and kind of help you grow as well. That's it for today's episode. Go to our patreon.com/Jadewolf if you want to support the podcast. Go to our website, jadewolfmarketing.com, download the guide, read more blogs, listen to the podcast. Again, the podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google. We're everywhere. We're on Amazon Music now as well. Like every podcast platform out there, you can find the Luxury Travel Marketer. Go to superyachtradio.com. Tune in if you have a specific interest in yachting and super yachting and maritime, be it conservation, be it science, be it the state of the industry, boat shows, marinas, new yacht projects. Maeve and Dave are your people when it comes to that. They have a great platform there, and we're happy to be on it. And overall, I hope you will tune in next week again for next week's episode. It's probably going to be shorter than this one, but I just felt since I was 2 days late, usually I try to release those on Wednesday, I had to give you guys a little bit more chunky content this time. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time.